Welcome to our 10th Latvian Gambit. We're going to analyze a game today that was played on April 27th, 2017, where the F-file was opened, as always happens in the Latvian Gambit for the most part, and where we actually occupied the center nicely, pressured d4, forced a bad move on white's part to protect d4, and we considered castling either side and did, in fact, castle on my non-preferred side. So without further ado, we're going to see about this game. This is instructive because white plays the right moves for the most part. These are all standard opening moves. As you see, the computer says we're down one. That's a common move, one of the most standard ways of dealing with this gambit. And interestingly, the computer insists that the right move is move queen back to d8, which I believe we've looked at before, and I can't stand doing. So now it says he should move d5, and it is possible that d5 is a very disruptive move. It's hardly ever played. So there are lots of responses to d5 and various places to go, but the biggest problem is a check that ends up on b5 at some point. So that is the bad move right there. That gives us near equality. We push d5, and now he's faced with the loss of a pawn or a retreat. 99% of players seem to retreat right there, where it pressures the d-pawn, and he's playing correct moves once again. Now we castle queenside, which is the computer's recommended move. It's suggesting f3, which is a difficult move to meet, but possible. Now he's going to go queen to a4, which is, in my opinion, a misplaced queen. As you see now, the computer says we have an advantage till I move my king. I just didn't like bishop to b4 coming, or b5 that is. I wanted to have some options to move my knight as opposed to protect my knight with knight to e7. I think the preferred move was to actually just move bishop to d6 and then my other knight to e7 and just write it out. A little better attacking possibilities as well. So here white goes a little bit astray as well, developing a knight to a kind of a poor square. Now it's virtually an even game. And now, of course, what's interesting about this is that the computer's suggesting that I just move my other knight and protect it, and I don't like having in my black squared bishop that way. I want to use it to attack if I can. So I move that knight, and the computer says, well, okay, it's an even game, basically. So he decides to start allowing me to do some things that I love doing. Now, knight to c8 is now one of the things I love doing. However, let me back up a second. In doing so, I protect against a variety of threats that can happen against my king position. And, you know, there's all kinds of bishop pins and things going to happen on that b-pawn. I want to consolidate that. So it says he should move c4. Stockfish said he should have moved f3. And instead he decides to weaken his f-file. And you can see right now that the computer's decided that all I need to do is make a knight move to h6 or b6, apparently either one, and get a full point advantage. So I moved to h6, that knight hasn't been developed. And he's missing his lever of c4, mostly probably because he fears the pressure on d4 from the queen. The queen just sits there and pressures d4 in this scenario. Now we're going to get fully developed. Computer has viewed that as a number one move as well. And he thinks he's going to attack, and his attack isn't very good compared to my attack. So it says he's forced to play knight takes g4 here and be down 5 or 4.5. And incidentally, it says if he makes another move like knight to d1, and he's just giving up the whole house. So he plays knight takes, we take back, and now he's got a denuded king side. We have an open f-file that's going to come into play here, then he should be protecting it with bishop to e3. Instead he moves g3 and walks headlong into a sack, which ends the game. So basically this game's over. He takes, we take, resigns happens. So that's the end of the world for white in a very quick Latvian Gambit 10.